Thomas, si je peux vous demander de prendre vos places. Merci beaucoup. Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous de midi. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 10 octobre et permettez-moi de dire, je suis ravi de vous voir si nombreux en salle de presse. Je vois que la péninsule ibérique s'est reconstituée sur ma gauche. Suite à la réunion des chefs de cabinet, je peux vous confirmer l'agenda de la réunion du collège et les événements de presse que nous préparons pour vous demain. Je devrais dire plutôt l'événement de presse. Le collège discutera d'une proposition visant à relever les défis démographiques en Europe et notamment leur impact sur la compétitivité. La vice-présidente Dubravka Šuica vous présentera cette proposition lors d'une conférence de presse à l'issue de la réunion. Voilà pour le collège. Je vous rappelle également, j'avais fait l'annonce hier, que nous organisons demain un événement de lancement pour un nouveau partenariat de financement pour éradiquer la polio. Et je voulais simplement vous préciser que cet événement de presse, avec des courtes déclarations par la présidente et ses invités, aura lieu ici à 13 heures. Then, let me remind you that EU foreign affairs ministers are meeting today in Muscat, Oman, for the 27th EU Gulf Cooperation Council, the so-called GCC. High Representative Josep Borrell chairs the meeting alongside the current Omani presidency of the GCC. Commissioner Janez Lenarčič is participating, representing the Commission. Both the EU and GCC member states figure among the largest donors and play a key role for the delivery of principled humanitarian assistance. This gathering is also an opportunity to further the strategic partnership between the two organizations. High Representative Borrell will participate in the press conference that will follow the meeting, and this press conference is scheduled for roughly 1 p.m. Brussels time, which gives us an end date for this midday briefing today. As you know, the High Representative has convened later today an extraordinary meeting of the Foreign Affairs Council to discuss the situation in Israel. There will also be a press conference on this following this meeting at around 6:30 p.m. again, Brussels time. Both press conferences will be broadcast live on EBS, so please stay tuned. Finally, let me welcome a group of journalists from Germany, from RTL Journalistenschule. Willkommen. I understand that you're currently in your traineeships to become professional journalists. You have masters of the trade here in the press room in front of you. You'll see how they'll give me a hard time later today. All the best in your careers. Okay, that being said, let's get to your questions. Irini.
Merci, Eric. Can we have more details on humanitarian aid for Palestinians, if there are figures, the way the humanitarian aid is going to be distributed? Because yesterday it was a little bit difficult and we had a little bit turbulence with all these tweets. Thank you.
Well, yesterday we had one tweet from Commissioner Lenarčič on humanitarian aid, and I think that tweet was absolutely clear on the fact that humanitarian aid will continue. I'll let Balázs give you more details.
Indeed. So I think on that front, the situation is absolutely clear. So I will refer back to what Commissioner said yesterday. He confirmed that the EU humanitarian aid to Palestinians in need will continue as long as needed. And it's important to recall, of course, that our humanitarian aid is never channeled through governments or authorities. It always goes through humanitarian partner organizations. These are international organizations, UN agencies, or NGOs. So this is the way we implement our humanitarian aid projects. And our aid is always based on key humanitarian principles. These are impartiality, neutrality, independence, and humanity. So no change on this front. Our humanitarian aid operations continue.
Follow up on humanitarian aid. Lisa, it's on humanitarian aid. Go ahead.
Hi. You'd be unsurprised to hear, I beg to differ. Nothing was clear yesterday about the humanitarian aid, apart from what Janicic said and Borrell. But you guys, your press statement was very unclear. You made a statement saying because there was no payments foreseen no payments will be made. What does that mean? Can you tell us how much money is planned for the next year, for example, the next few months for Palestine in whatever, whether it's humanitarian or other aid, and what that sentence means? Thank you.
No, Lisa, I believe that you are mistaken. Apologies for saying so, because there's a clear distinction between humanitarian aid and other forms of support. No, don't shrug. This is a budget reality, okay? And this is why we distinguished between the things in the press release. Now, I fully understand it's not necessarily easy to understand from outside, but to be clear, you have in the European budget support for different organizations in Palestine, for projects that support the Palestinian people, okay? Support to the Palestinian Authority, that's not humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is what we do across the world when there is an emergency, such as an earthquake, okay? Such as needs of population that is facing a conflict, all right? And so our statement yesterday evening was absolutely clear that whatever the debate that is ongoing on support to Palestine and the decisions that we might take on this, it would not affect humanitarian aid. That is something different, okay? I hope that clarifies the situation. Humanitarian aid is to deal with the basic human needs of people: food, shelter, water, medical assistance, okay? That is, as Balázs has said, that always continues, basically, okay? As long as we have partners on the ground that are able to deliver the assistance, we try to deliver it. So that's different from what was the subject that I think that concerns you, which is the announcement which was made by Commissioner Várhelyi. Commissioner Várhelyi's announcement did not concern humanitarian aid. We wanted to make that clear, and therefore we introduced that sentence in our press statement, and indeed before that, Commissioner Lenarčič had in any case made that clear. Okay? Yeah. Marco.
Thank you, Eric. Marco Bresolin, La Stampa. You mentioned the announcement made by the Commissioner Várhelyi. That was the big news yesterday that surprised the entire world and also many governments inside the EU. Commissioner Várhelyi, you just explained that you just clarify what the statement that you released late in the evening. But Commissioner Várhelyi said that all payment will be suspended. Few hours later, High Representative Borrell said that you cannot suspend payments. My question is quite clear. Was the announcement of Commissioner Várhelyi a personal initiative, or was it coordinated with the President of the Commission?
Thank you for your question. So, we have a situation on the ground which is evolving minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Okay, that's the first thing, and obviously the Commission needs to adapt to this evolving situation. So, the announcement which was made by Commissioner Várhelyi was not preceded by consultations with any member of the College. Okay, that must be absolutely clear. Now, that being said, this issue was immediately taken up during the meeting of heads of cabinet that takes place every week to prepare the College, which, as it happens, takes place normally on Monday afternoons. Yesterday, therefore, Monday afternoon. And this issue was discussed. And there is, I believe, strong consensus among the members of Hebdo that took part to Hebdo, that the situation on the ground having evolved, we need to have another look at the assistance which is provided for Palestine. Okay? And this is what we labeled in the press statement which was issued later that day, a review. Review meaning that we put things on the table and we look at them. Okay? That does not mean that until that review is finished, we will suspend anything. We are going to sequence things. We are first going to have, very quickly, a look at the assistance that is provided for actors in Palestine. And based on that, we will see whether, and if so, what next steps need to be taken. So, as it turns out, there are in any case no payments foreseen at the moment for any actors in Palestine. So we are going to carry out this review and then we will take decision. Follow up, Marco.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, the announcement made by Commissioner Varelli was the result of a personal initiative, since you said that he didn't consult any member of the college, so either the president of the commission. Seeing the magnitude of this announcement and also the damage that this created to the EU, will the president of the commission take any measure against the commissioner who go doing such a strong announcement without any consultation inside the college?
Look, the President of the Commission is entirely focused on the situation on the ground. I think we need to keep things in perspective. I understand that for us here, this is an extremely important issue, but the fact is that we have a rapidly increasing death toll in Israel and in the Gaza Strip at the moment. So what we are focused on is not internal debates about who should have announced what at what point in time following what procedure. It's on making sure that our reaction corresponds to the necessities on the ground. And from that point of view, the Hebdo meeting was extremely useful in ensuring that after this announcement, which had not been coordinated, the Commission immediately discussed the issue and adopted a position which allows us to move forward. This is what the President is focused on at the moment. Yeah, Jorge.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Regarding the review that you're launching, it was a bit surprising as well, because yesterday during the midday you were quite clear that you had strict controls to prevent that no money goes directly or indirectly to Hamas in Gaza. So what prompted this review? Did you discover any piece of evidence that suggests that there might be a leakage and that some money might be arriving at Hamas? What was the reason behind this review despite these strict controls that you have in place? Thank you.
Two things. The first is the evolving situation on the ground, as I said initially, and the second is a general sentiment that particular prudence is needed in the current circumstances. This is what has led to this decision. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the floor. I hear you very carefully saying about yesterday that the Commission saw the tweet by the Commissioner Varhelyi, which was his own initiative, and then you said that immediately the Commission decided to review, etc., etc. But it took some 10 or 8 hours for the Commission to issue the press release. So what happened during all these hours? I mean, Commissioner Lenarch's tweet came at around 6, if I'm not wrong. I was not ready with the timings, but it doesn't matter really now. I mean, it took so long for the Commission to put the things back in order after a false tweet. And I follow up on my colleague's question. After this, has Commissioner Varhelyi apologized to the Commission, to the President of the Commission? Will the President of the Commission do something about all these tweets that come on a private platform informing even the accredited journalists about what the Commission has decided or not? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, as you yourself are saying, and you're absolutely right, words matter in a way, and the words that were in those tweets from Commissioner Vaheli mattered, and therefore it was extremely important that we would issue a press release once we were absolutely certain that the words written in that press release were sufficiently specific and sufficiently corresponded to what the Commission wanted to do. And precisely because we don't want to shoot from the hip, we took time to ensure that there was good coordination before we issued the press release. Now, it didn't take 10 hours. You know, if it was 10 hours, I would have gone to bed at midnight. I went to bed slightly before that, and that was already quite a long time after the press release was issued. But yes, we took time to ensure that we communicated in the right way about what the way forward that the Commission is going to take, including consultations with other members of the college that are the most involved, listening to voices, consulting our partners, etc., etc. So fundamentally, we took time to make sure that our announcement is correct. And on your first question, I will give the same answer, which is that, look, we have a situation for the moment which requires our attention for those who are affected on the ground. And quite frankly, that is what we are focusing on. There will be a college meeting tomorrow. You can be sure that this will be discussed as well, and we will take it from there. Okay? Diego, pardon. Ma mémoire me fait défaut. Follow up.
Since we have ballast there, could you tell us how much money is the help, the humanitarian help, to the Palestinians? And another question about the legal part of the decision. Was anyway the Commission legally allowed to freeze the funding for the multi-annual help for Palestinians? Thank you.
So let's distinguish two things. The
yes,
humanitarian aid.
The second is not for ballast. Yes, you're right.
The humanitarian aid is not concerned by the debates that we are having now. This will continue. We do have figures that Balázs can give you.
Indeed, so when it comes to our humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people in need this year, the exact budget is actually 27.9 million euro. So 27.9 million euro, this is the humanitarian aid allocation of the European Commission for the Palestinians in need this year.
So suspension is a term that can mean many things depending on what exactly you're talking about. And I'm not going to give you a training course into all the intricacies of programming and budgetary or financial regulation details, but roughly speaking, you can use the term basically in two ways, right? One is you suspend a very particular payment to a specific project beneficiary because you have a doubt about the use being made of the funds, okay? So this is the sort of basic compulsory obligation on the Commission to ensure that EU funds are spent according to the rules and not abused or misused, okay? Now, that's a sort of, if you wish, technical decision. So if you're the Director General and you have a legitimate suspicion that a project is actually using the funneling the money away for, corruption or using it to buy pleasure cars or whatever, etc., you say, "Oh, hold on a minute here. I'm going to do something about this." Okay, that's a technical decision. What we are talking about here, and the terms that were used when it comes to suspension, are completely different. They have a sort of political meaning, saying we are going to suspend all assistance to Palestine, okay? Now, including payments, but not only suspending the programs, suspending the projects, etc., etc. Now, that is a political decision, okay? And a political decision of that nature necessarily, obviously, has to be taken by the college, okay? And it has to be taken very often also in consultation with our partners, including in the other institutions, who, when it comes to programs, have obviously a role to play as well. So basically, yes, what the Commissioner said yesterday about the fact that we want to review the assistance is something on which there is, I believe, consensus, and this is what we are going to carry out. We are not going to suspend anything until we have carried out this review, including individual payments, including programs, etc. But we recognize, and this is the result of the meeting yesterday, that there is a need to have another look also at the assistance for Palestine in general, because the situation on the ground is evolving. This is what was the subject yesterday. Diego, you have the floor now.
Merci, Eric. Thanks. Yeah, I hear that you are focused on the situation on the ground and that you want to be as efficient and as helpful as possible. But the question remains, I mean, can you do that if the commissioner in charge is obviously a loose gun? Because it's not the first time he does it.
Look, let me be very clear. I'm not going to dance here on a pinhead for an hour about this question. I've given my answer, okay? So I will not go back to that question. I will take one or two questions from the platform as well. Naomi. Naomi, please switch on your camera and press speak. Naomi, we see the ceiling and a lamp. We give it another try. Nope. Okay, while you try to sort out your camera, I will go to Oliver.
Salut, je suis un peu enrhumé, donc je vous épargne ma présence dans la salle de presse. Il serait très utile pour nous d'avoir une sorte de fiche de tous les aides, tous les fonds européens qui sont destinés pour l'autorité palestinienne, mais aussi pour l'aide humanitaire. Voilà, j'ai déjà mentionné cette somme de, je pense que 27,9 millions. Donc, si vous avez une sorte de table de tous les fonds, ça pourrait nous aider, surtout parce que le commissaire Varhey a écrit de 691 millions d'euros et je n'ai pas trop bien compris d'où ça vient. Et une deuxième question qui est liée à ça, il semble que l'armée israélienne est en train de détruire une grande partie de l'infrastructure civile à Gaza. Il est impossible pour les gens là de sortir. Il n'y aura ni d'eau, ni d'électricité, etc. Est-ce que vous allez aussi parler d'une augmentation de l'aide humanitaire qui semble inévitable vu que ce qui se passe maintenant sur place maintenant?
Merci. Je crois qu'il est, pour répondre rapidement à ta deuxième question, bien entendu, rien n'est jamais exclu. Mais nous n'en sommes pas encore à ce stade. La situation évolue de toute façon de manière extrêmement rapide sur le terrain, comme tu le dis. Je crois que la priorité, ce sera déjà de faire en sorte que l'aide qui est prévue puisse arriver et être distribuée sur place. En ce qui concerne les chiffres, donc de manière très schématique, vous avez donc on parle de 2021-2023, d'accord? Donc en 2021, il y avait 316 millions d'euros qui étaient prévus pour l'autorité palestinienne, pour UNRWA, l'agence des Nations Unies, et pour d'autres projets. Donc 316 millions d'euros en 2021. En 2022, ce montant, c'était 283 millions d'euros. En ce qui concerne la situation en 2023, elle est encore en train d'évoluer. Ce qui est déjà clairement sur la table, c'était 82 millions d'euros qui sont pour UNRWA. D'autres montants nécessitent encore des décisions définitives. Donc voilà d'où viennent ces 691 millions. Il y a 10 millions qui ont été mentionnés, qui sont une enveloppe supplémentaire pour UNRWA, qui ne sont pas encore entièrement formalisés, mais qui ont été mentionnés. Donc ça, ce sont les chiffres que l'on a à vous communiquer pour le moment. So I come back. Yes, Jack. You need to come to the press room more often. You'll find the mic more easily.
Yeah, very true. Jack Parrott for DW. I have to come back to this thing with the Commissioner Vaihe a little bit. We need a bit more of I feel like we need a bit more of a picture painted. I get it. He sends the tweet. All of you get it on your phone like we do. We're like, what? Wow. Oh, my God, what's going on? Does the President, von der Leyen, call him up and ask him what he's doing? Was there some sort... I understand everyone went into Hebdo and decided what the official lines were going to be, but if you can paint a picture a bit more of what happens internally when a commissioner goes rogue like that, and also, like on a firm question, is President von der Leyen going to do some sort of disciplinary action or something like that? If I misreport a story, I get hauled into my boss's office, you know?
Yeah, I think I've already answered that question once. As I say, the internal workings of the college are internal workings of the college. The President is in constant contact with her commissioners, but I'm not going to provide details, a blow-by-blow account of the contacts between the President and individual members of the college. Suffice it to say that, yes, members of the college were not aware of this announcement by Oliver Vaihe, and therefore the issue was immediately taken up. The important thing is really to ensure that we move forward in an orderly manner, and this is what yesterday afternoon was spent on. Now, I understand that you would like more color, but I'm afraid that here my role is to tell you what is our policy response to this. Jack, a follow-up. Wait until it's read.
So you would agree that yesterday was disorderly? If you're trying to move forward in an orderly manner, you'd say that it was a disorderly process for the Commission?
Look, you can use the terms you want. What I said is it's uncoordinated. It was not coordinated with other members of the college beforehand. Okay? Kathleen.
Yes, thank you, Eric. This is a question, I think, to Anna. And also a question about Commissioner Vaihe, but about his position. So does Commissioner Vaihe stick to his position that all aid, development and humanitarian aid should be suspended to Palestinians, or does he agree with the Commission position? In other words, does he recognize that he made a mistake yesterday posting this tweet, or he sticks to his opinion still? Thanks.
I think, Kathleen, that you are mistaking the press room for something that it is not. We are not spokespeople of commissioners. We are here to give you the Commission line on this. What the Commissioner thinks, you'll have to ask the Commissioner. Here, I'm here to tell you what is now the Commission line. And the Commission line is, A, that we are doing a review, that until such time as the review is finished, there is no suspension. B, that humanitarian aid is not included in this review. This is what we can say on this today. Now, I remind you that we need to stop at 1 p.m., so voilà. Thomas. I hope colleagues who have other issues will forgive, well, not us, but others for sticking to this, but...
Well, that's certainly important.
Absolutely.
Eric, you said that words matter, and I think the Commission is very concerned about misinformation as well as disinformation. So I'm just wondering, why has Commissioner Vaihe's tweet not been deleted so far? That's not internal, that's about external presentation of Commission policies.
Thanks. I think there's a general consensus that once a tweet is out, there's no point in deleting it, because in any case, it's been screenshot and sent around the world. So, but we are not in the business of deleting tweets, but we're in the business of making sure that we correct the information. Yeah.
Hi, Shandor from Euronews. Will Mr. Vaihe keep the right to handle his Twitter account however he wants, sending tweets? Because, it was not the first time he is entering this kind of communication storm. So will you give him any sort of communication guidelines?
We're not in the business of forbidding people from using social media tools. Obviously, we need to ensure that communication from the college is consistent and coherent. Yeah, Stefan.
Yes, in your clarification from yesterday evening, you insist that there are no payments due. So could you tell us when the next payments are due? And I see also a little contradiction with the later tweet of HRVP Borrell, who insists that also due payments will be paid out. So what does he want to say with that? Thank you.
Look, again, I'm here to give you the Commission line. The Commission line is we are going to do a review. Once that review is over, we will see what is the action that needs to be taken. In the meantime, there will be no suspension of payments. Now, this is how I understand the tweet as well from HRVP Borrell. Clearly, the Commission can, in the future, at any point in time, based on the result of its review, decide to take some action. Or else there's no point in doing a review. Okay? But we are not at that stage yet. But in the meantime, we're not suspending payments. I cannot give you a date for when the next foreseen payment is, but we will make sure that the review is finished before that. Yeah, go ahead.
Bruno Waterfield, Times. Apart from the sort of Twitter, the madness that descends on Twitter, as part of the Hungarian Commissioner's tweet, he did say there was going to be a review as well as a suspension of payments, so he wasn't entirely incorrect. We were told here yesterday by Anna that there are very strict rules to screen and vet beneficiaries, i.e. don't worry about it. None of these hundreds of millions are going to go anywhere near the hands of Hamas. Then, he's correct, there's a review, and you now tell us that particular prudence is needed, and the review is because we recognise that there is a need for another look. So why is it that the Commission is now worried that these very strict rules for screening and vetting beneficiaries might not be as strict as you first thought? Because despite the world of Twitter, there is a big contrast between what we were told yesterday about how watertight this funding was, and you saying now there is cause for concern, for particular prudence and a recognition that you need to have another look.
Yeah, I believe I've already answered that question, Bruno. Let's make sure I don't answer the same question 10 times. I'll be happy to say so again. The first thing is we're a modest spokespeople. Okay, we give you answers based on the situation at a specific point in time. The college is a body that is, of course, empowered to change course, to specify its intentions, and that is exactly what it did yesterday. And we, as modest spokespeople, then inform you about the evolution in the policy that the Commission is following. And secondly, and this is what I've already said, the situation on the ground keeps evolving. Yes, we have strict controls in place. They refer to what I was mentioning about the specific payments that are made to specific organizations where what we call the authorizing officer can basically say, I have a suspicion here that a payment is not going to its intended purposes. I'm going to take action. What we were discussing here is something which is much broader, which includes both having a second look at whether in any structural way there is a risk that the way we send aid for Palestine could be abused, and secondly, take into account the changes on the ground, which may mean that we have to change the focus of our assistance compared to how it is currently structured. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. That was you, but Catherine, I meant, sorry. But we'll come back to you afterwards, Catherine.
OK. Bonjour, Eric. J'ai une question plus générale. Ce qui se joue sur le terrain, c'est une force d'occupation et un peuple occupé qui veut se libérer de cette occupation avec tous les moyens qu'il puisse avoir à sa disposition. Depuis plus qu'un an et demi, nous ne cessons dans cette salle d'écouter de la part de vous, de tous les responsables, que l'Ukraine défend du droit international, défend sa souveraineté, et que ce qui se joue en Ukraine se joue, en fait, concerne le droit international de manière générale, que les Ukrainiens luttent pour les valeurs européennes, etc. Pourquoi ce double standard continue en Europe alors que les choses sont tellement évidentes? Il s'agit d'une occupation israélienne des territoires depuis 1967. Et si la solution est très visible, il faut finir l'occupation et le problème est résolu. Pourquoi l'Union européenne, dans ces récents communiqués de Mme von der Leyen, etc., est restée émotionnelle et n'a pas été dire, voilà, la solution, c'est qu'il faut arriver à une solution de paix et sans retard. Pourquoi ce double standard? Les Ukrainiens, à raison d'ailleurs, ils ont tout le droit légitime de défendre leurs terres, leur souveraineté. Pourquoi pas les Palestiniens?
Merci. La Commission et l'Union européenne en général, et Peter va te rappeler notre position sur le sujet, est extrêmement claire en ce qui concerne la solution, en quelque sorte, au conflit. Et je vais le laisser te rappeler quelle est notre position générale. La présidente a réagi par rapport à une attaque terroriste. Nous réagissons par rapport aux attaques terroristes de la même manière qu'elles se situent en Europe ou qu'elles se situent dans un pays de notre voisinage avec lequel nous entretenons des relations très proches. Ce sont des tweets qui visent à assurer le peuple israélien de notre solidarité face à une attaque terroriste d'une ampleur inédite, sans précédent et avec des images horribles. Cela n'a rien à voir avec notre position en ce qui concerne le conflit israélo-palestinien. Mais sur ce point, j'appelle Peter au podium pour nous rappeler quelle est la position extrêmement claire de l'Union européenne sur cette question.
Bonjour Noureddin. Nous avons dit plusieurs fois que la position européenne est très claire. Nous voulons aider les deux parties à trouver une solution. L'Union européenne n'est pas la cause des problèmes entre les Israéliens et les Palestiniens. L'Union européenne n'est pas une partie de ces conflits, en général, depuis des décades. Et nous sommes un acteur international très responsable qui essaye toujours de trouver une solution, encourager les partenaires. Et le preuve plus récent, c'est l'initiative de Peace Day Effort de septembre dans les Nations Unies, pendant l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies. L'Union européenne a introduit, a présenté une proposition pour renforcer les efforts, les activités pour soutenir le renouvellement de la négociation. Donc nous avons une position très claire, la position générale de deux États qui vivent ensemble, côté à côté, en sécurité et en paix, et nous faisons tout ce que nous pouvons pour obtenir ces objectifs. Mais finalement, c'est le devoir pour les deux parties, c'est essayer et recommencer les discussions. Et nous sommes là pour soutenir ce processus. Et c'est ce que nous faisons chaque jour, chaque mois, chaque année.
Catherine.
Thank you. Peter, this is firstly for you. I mean, we're all totally appalled by what happened on Saturday and acknowledge that Israel has a right to defend itself. But in your answers yesterday, you said that that right to defence must be done with respect to international law. So I'm wondering, do you consider the cuts to electricity, water supplies, the heavy bombing of a densely populated population to contravene international law? And then I think I should say, more as a comment, but partly as a question to Eric, as a VP of the International Press Association, I feel that I should raise the fact that you may not have been focused on the ways of communicating, but I think it's vitally important, as has been proven from what's gone on in the last 24 hours, that formal announcements from the Commission should be made by the website, should be notified through the standard channels. And could you reassure us that the Commission will ask all their commissioners to respect that And finally, just one small point. We've all made mistakes on Twitter. I've made mistakes. I've deleted tweets and I have apologised. Commissioner Varhelyi should do exactly the same.
I'm sure he will have listened to your comment. As to your second point, it was not an official announcement by the Commission, since the official announcement by the Commission, as you quite rightly say, was done then through a press release. On your first question, I give the floor to Peter.
Thank you very much. So, first of all, it was a clear position of the European Union, 27 member states, echoed also by other international actors and partners, that Israel, in the face of the brutal, indiscriminate, senseless attack by Hamas launched on Saturday, has the right to defend itself and its citizens. This attack is still continuing. There are still rockets flying. There are still hostages being kept in God knows what conditions. I mean, from the pictures we have seen, it's appalling. Taking hostages, taking civilians as hostages is against any law, any norm of the civilized behavior. So what we are witnessing now as the Israeli response is a direct consequence of Hamas started to do on Saturday. But the position of the European Union, at the same time as saying Israel has right to defend itself, the second part of the sentence is it needs to be done in line with international law. I'm not going to react to the ongoing developments by the hour because the ministers are meeting in Muscat in Oman. The High Representative and a number of EU foreign ministers who are in Oman physically have had exchanges with their counterparts in the Gulf. This is very important because in the Gulf there are countries who have links and influence over Hamas. They have links to Hamas and influence over Hamas. So it's important. So they are on the ground. They are dealing with an ongoing and unfolding crisis. The ministers of the EU will meet in a few hours at 4 o'clock our time. They will meet in Muscat and via video conference, those who are not there, to discuss exactly the implications and the overall context of the situation and the reaction of the European Union. And it's very clear for the European Union, and this has been already communicated to the partners already in the bilateral communication, to the partners on the Israeli side, that whatever response is taken and in whatever way the right to defend themselves is executed and implemented, it needs to be in line with international law. This is a long-standing position of the European Union, and we've been saying it very many times whenever the rights of the civilians, whenever the international law has been infringed on, the European Union spoke very loudly about this. And that's everything I can say at this stage because, as I said, ministers will reflect on all these issues and then they will come up with a reaction if necessary.
Exactly. Let me point out that we will ask you now to reserve your questions for the press conference there, or make sure that colleagues of yours can ask the questions there, because we cannot go further into these issues before the Foreign Affairs meeting, the informal Foreign Affairs meeting, which is going to take place. Yeah.
Thomas Friedrich, VDI Nachrichten Germany. I learned today, Eric, that you are not in the capacity to speak here in the press room for individual college members, even if they're part of the college. But I suppose, as you are the chief spoke of the president, you can perhaps answer, when will Ursula von der Leyen show up again here in the press room to respond to the questions of the accredited journalists here in Brussels? Thank you.
When we have a date for a press conference here in the press room, I will communicate it. I do not have it now. Catherine. Yeah, I believe you're called Catherine.
I have a question to Peter, because you mentioned this respectful gathering today in Muscat. So will Monsieur Borrell raise issue of hostages? Has he been already undertaking diplomatic step to liberate them? Because there are more than 100 people, as you know, and there are also foreigners and double nationals, and the situation is very dire.
Peter.
Indeed, Anna, thank you. This is exactly what the High Representative was very much involved in during his outreach since Saturday, and this continues also on the ground in Oman with partners. One of the priorities, as we have communicated since Saturday, one of the priorities, apart from stopping the aggression, stopping the violence, is the release of the hostages. And we are doing everything we can as the EU, High Representative, Member States, to make sure that these people are released as soon as possible. Because, again, the position of the European Union in this regard is very, very clear. It's against international law to take hostages. To misuse civilians for these purposes is totally condemnable. It's utterly inhuman, and this needs to end. These hostages need to be freed, and this is something which is very high on our agenda in our interactions with the partners.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Barzan Hassan, reporter from Kurdistan 24. I am, as a journalist, always want to peace. Right now, there are three battles between the Ukraine, Russia, and Hamas, Israel, and Turkey, Kurdish in North Syria. When people from Ukraine, they are fighting, defense their country against Russia, you said they are heroes. And don't you think people from Palestine, more than decade and decade, they are fighting for their land because they don't have a country, they don't have land. And also Kurdish in Middle East, they are fighting, they are defend, they are looking for the land, they don't have a country. So, and always you can see on the media, they said Kurdish or Palestinian, they are terrorists. Why terrorists? They are looking, their defense, they are fighting for their land. So why they are, when you don't have a country, you are fighting, why they are terrorists? Could you just explain me, please?
Apologies, but we did not make any comments about Palestinians or anybody else in general terms. We made comments about specific actions of specific individuals on a specific event, which took place during the day of Saturday, and which led to the massacre of innocent people who were at a festival, who were at their homes, some of whom were raped before they were killed, some of whom were then taken hostage. We're talking about specific individuals during a specific event. And your comment, it relates to something completely different. And on that, as Peter has said, and he will repeat, as long as necessary, the European Commission, which is indeed a peace project, it's its very nature, has extremely clear positions. But please, please, do not put in our mouth words which we have not used. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Giulia Renzi from Total EU Production. Are you discussing also about energy and about the prices that are increasing because of this war? So how Commission will respond to this and how could respond to this? Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, we're monitoring developments related to these events from all possible angles, and you are right to mention the fact that we have seen reports of increases in oil and gas prices, and this is obviously something that we are keeping a close eye on. Yeah, Nawab.
Thanks, Eric. Peter, beyond the meeting today with the GCC and the contacts with the Arab world, is the ES also thinking of contacting the wider Muslim world? Because as you are aware that the issue of Al-Aqsa is not only an Arab issue, it's an Islamic world issue. So are you thinking of taking contact with the other Muslim countries also? Thank you.
Go ahead. Waiting for the red light. Thank you, Nawab. Of course, I mean, we are not limited in our outreach. So on Saturday, it was immediately necessary to be in touch with those who are closest to the conflict. Then we enlarged the scope of the engagement going to the Gulf. Now the ministers of foreign affairs of the European Union are discussing among themselves, and one of the points they will be discussing is also the outreach, because exactly, I mean, we need to mobilize the international community, and that was also the aim of this Peace Day effort launched in September in New York, to mobilize the international community, the international partners, everyone who can contribute to join these efforts to help Israelis and Palestinians to open a credible political horizon to solve this issue finally. So yes, I mean, first of all, of course, League of Arab States is the first partner, the Gulf Cooperation Council, another important partner, the Organization of Islamic Countries, also very important partner. So the outreach is not limited, and the European Union is very much aware that the more people we engage with, the better results we can achieve, because then we create some kind of international momentum, and this is a time where international community needs to work together, because we cannot afford, as international community, yet another crisis that leads to more violence and to more instability, because in the end, it's ordinary people paying the price and ordinary people suffering.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to come back once more at the tweets. Verheyen's tweet was uncoordinated. What about the tweets from Commissioners Lenarčič and Borrell? Were they coordinated?
The tweet from Commissioner Lenarčič expresses a very factual point of view, which is that humanitarian aid is always something that we focus on, and that is not subject to review. And there were, of course, as I said, contacts between the Commission President and members of her college in the course of the afternoon on this issue. And obviously, the HRVP, who was present as in Muscat, is one of those with whom she was in contact. Maria.
Just a clarification, Eric. So the 691 million that Commissioner Varhelyi had mentioned in his tweet does not include the humanitarian aid, correct? Okay. And could you break down this?
Correct. Just so it's on the record. Yeah.
Thank you. Could you please break down this 691 million, because we don't have the exact breakdown of it. It would be very helpful if you could send it to us. If not now. Thank you.
We will happily do that. Basically, you have three main types of beneficiaries. Okay, one is UNWRA, UNRWA. The second is the Palestinian Authority, and the third are projects, individual projects, which are financed. And if you look at 21, 22, and 23, the money is allocated to these three types. Across those years, but we'll be happy to provide a breakdown with Anna later on this. Okay, Diego, and then I'll have to go back to Interaction.
Thank you. Just very quick, after the unofficial announcement by the Commissioner, have you been in contact with Member States who voiced their concern, and what role played this in the process?
Well, of course, we're in contact with all our partners on such grave matters, and we have indeed been in touch with a certain number of member states, obviously, or they have been in touch with us. Okay, let me go back to the platform. David.
Apologies if I reject your argument on the fact that it was not an official announcement by the European Commission, because 50 minutes after the tweets by Commissioner Varhelyi in our chat, where you have confirmed the substance of the tweet. So please don't blame journalists if the messenger is wrong. Okay? But my question is on focusing on the situation on the ground. Do you think that this incident has had some repercussion on the ground? According to the European Council President press people, Antonio Guterres called Charles Michel, expressing his worrying about this uncoordinated announcement. Don't you think that there is an impact on the ground with the other partners? And has the President received any call by Gutierrez or other third countries' leader? Thank you.
Thank you. David, I sincerely do not believe that I blamed anybody for anything. Honestly, I mean, I fully understand your questions. I think they are entirely legitimate. The situation was evolving quickly, and I've tried to explain what is the process. I don't believe that I blamed anybody for any misreporting. On the contrary, you guys reported exactly what had been published in a tweet, and that is entirely legitimate. So I hope I can put that to rest, because I certainly did not want to give that impression. In terms of impact on the ground, well, of course, uncoordinated announcements, obviously, are something that can have an impact, because you are doing your job, you report on them, and this then has an impact. And we spent our time yesterday trying to make sure that we could come back to a position that represented the way forward, which the college is going to follow. As to calls, again, the President is in contact with many interlocutors, but I do not provide details on every single phone call that she has. Christian.
Oui, bonjour. Peter, je voudrais savoir dans quelle mesure les annonces du commissaire Varhelyi ont eu, et ensuite la prise de position de la Commission sur la revue de l'aide au développement, parce que Varhelyi n'a jamais parlé d'autre chose que de l'aide du développement dans son tweet. Il n'a jamais parlé de l'aide humanitaire, vont gêner ou vont avoir un impact sur l'action qu'est en train de mener M. Borrell, qui a déjà eu des problèmes avec le même commissaire à propos des Palestiniens. Je pense que c'était sur des manuels à l'époque. Et Eric, depuis le temps qu'on utilise Twitter, depuis que ce réseau social est devenu une source d'information, pour nous journalistes, un tweet d'un commissaire, c'est un tweet de la Commission. Je suis désolé, c'est comme ça. Beaucoup de mes confrères sont partis dessus. Dans toutes les agences, on a flashé sur cette annonce, qui est une annonce énorme, qui a quand même beaucoup de conséquences sur la planète. David a parlé effectivement de l'inquiétude de Guterres, mais il y a quand même des États membres qui ont protesté. L'Espagne a fait savoir officiellement qu'elle avait un malaise avec la position de M. Varhelyi. Alors, je voudrais revenir premièrement sur un petit point que tu as dit. Madame von der Leyen est en contact constant avec ses commissaires. Est-ce qu'elle était en contact avec M. Varhelyi avant qu'il ne ponde la deuxième partie de son tweet? Ou est-ce qu'elle a pu le rattraper après? Parce que j'imagine qu'autour d'elle, il y a des gens qui ont vu la catastrophe qui était en train de venir. Vous avez mis beaucoup de temps à réagir. Et ça nous pose un problème maintenant. Parce que M. Varhelyi, on ne peut plus le considérer comme un commissaire fiable. Pour nous, il est rayé des réseaux sociaux. Ce type est incapable d'écrire une information. Il va falloir la redoubler, la retripler, pour être sûr que c'est bien la position de la Commission. Et ça va vous poser un problème dans toute votre communication. Excuse-moi.
Mais tu n'as pas besoin de t'excuser, je comprends parfaitement ce que tu dis. Je ne peux que réitérer ici ce que j'ai dit. Vous avez un communiqué de presse de la Commission qui est sorti en fin de journée, qui maintenant fixe la position. Je comprends parfaitement, et il est entièrement légitime, que vous soyez basé sur les éléments qui ont été mis sur le réseau X par le commissaire Varhelyi pour faire votre travail. J'aurais fait la même chose si j'avais été à votre place. Et effectivement, vous avez été un certain nombre à essayer de recouper l'information. Nous avons essayé de faire notre travail, et c'est vrai que cela a pris du temps. Encore une fois, je ne remets absolument pas en cause, au contraire, les informations qui sont sorties dans vos médias sur base du tweet ou du X, je ne sais pas comment on dit, du commissaire Varhelyi du début de l'après-midi. Ce que je vous dis, c'est que les choses ont évolué par la suite et que vous avez maintenant un communiqué de presse officiel de la Commission depuis hier soir qui clarifie les choses. Et je te répète encore une fois qu'avant ce tweet, ou ce X, il n'y a pas eu de coordination avec les autres membres du collège de la part du commissaire Varhelyi. Voilà, nous allons prendre encore quelques petites questions. Lawrence.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to ignore the Vahelia thing. I have 4 questions. I've left them on Twitter for you. I had a question for Peter on Iran, if Peter's still there. Yeah. Peter, can you tell me, did the High Rep reach out to Abdollahian, or was it the other way around on the call that they had? And can you tell me, does the High Rep believe that Iran, through its sponsorship and support for Hamas and for Palestinian Islamic Jihad, shares some responsibility for what happened on Saturday in Israel?
Peter.
I heard 4 questions. You wanted to ask about. Okay, so on the phone call with the Iranian foreign minister, High Representative is quite often in touch with the Iranian foreign minister. We usually inform about it either on Twitter/X or through specific readouts. We never comment on the logistics, how these calls are set up. It's obvious that as part of the outreach in the context of what started to happen on Saturday, it's important to have interactions with partners from the immediate region, from the wider region, with HRVP being in Oman for the GCC-EU Joint Council. This was a very good opportunity also to reach out to the Iranian counterpart and to talk and exchange with them, because yes, Iran has influence over Hamas, Iran is an actor in the region, and it's important to convey the messages and expectations of the EU also to the Iranians. I will not go beyond addressing other aspects of your question, because obviously this is going to be discussed by the foreign minister, so I don't want to preempt anything regarding their discussions and positions when it comes to saying who was involved, who was not involved in this particular tragedy unfolding since Saturday.
Okay, we stick with questions. Well, Lawrence, you had other questions, but again, please bear in mind now that we have an informal Foreign Affairs Council. There will be a press conference at the end of it, and so we cannot answer all your questions on other foreign affairs issues at this point. But Lawrence, you have the floor. Bear with us. Okay. Thank you. Mathieu.
Oui, bonjour. Vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons et nous aimerions te voir en entier, pas que le haut de ton crâne. Voilà, parfait.
Pardon. Je voulais revenir sur la question du respect du droit international. Donc, selon DPA, le Haut Commissariat des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme estime que le bouclage complet de Gaza viole le droit international. Donc, je veux savoir si vous partagez cette analyse, puisque vous appelez Israël à agir dans sa réponse aux attaques terroristes dans le respect du droit international. Et j'aurais une autre question, c'est sur l'éclairage du Berlaymont. Je la pose? Ok. Donc on a vu le drapeau israélien sur l'immeuble du Berlaymont. On avait aussi à l'époque le drapeau ukrainien. Donc c'est une manière de communiquer la solidarité de l'UE donc vis-à-vis d'un pays attaqué, disons. Je veux savoir qui décide d'éclairer le Berlaymont de cette manière-là. Est-ce que c'est une prérogative de la présidente? Est-ce que c'est une décision du collège? Est-ce que ça se fait à un niveau infrapolitique au niveau du secrétaire général? Qui décide de faire ça? Merci.
Sur ta première question, Peter.
Je vais répéter, la position de l'Union européenne est très claire depuis samedi dans la déclaration conjointe des 27 sur le droit d'Israël pour propre défense, mais aussi respect en faire en ligne avec le droit international. Et comme je dis plusieurs fois, on va discuter tous les aspects, tous les contextes de cette dernière escalade dans la réunion extraordinaire des ministres des Affaires étrangères cet après-midi. Donc, je ne voudrais pas prévoir les conclusions de cette discussion.
Et sur ta question en ce qui concerne les prises de décision sur l'éclairage du Berlaymont, ce sont les personnes qui sont en charge de la communication, qui sont proches de la présidente, qui évidemment évaluent la situation avec les collègues plus particulièrement responsables de telle ou telle de telle ou telle situation. Il n'y a pas une procédure spécifique, c'est au cas par cas, mais c'est évidemment une décision qui est prise en termes de communication par les gens qui travaillent dans ce domaine. I have one last hand raised. Fatloum, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, thank you. It's on Kosovo-Serbia relations. EU has made it clear that it will wait for full investigation to take actions towards Serbia, possible actions towards Serbia or Kosovo or anyone else involved in the terrorist attack. But I need two short confirmations about this. Has EU received any preliminary report on the terrorist attack? And could you please confirm if there is a draft package of measures against Serbia? And related to this, in the current situations, EU has asked to return to dialogue. Do you think that the return to dialogue will be in an equal and balanced process, while Kosovo is under measures and Serbia is just normal, like nothing happened? Thank you.
Thank you, Fatloum. The measures introduced in relation to Kosovo were in direct response to the escalation that we have seen, or the lack of the escalation that we have seen previously. I'm not talking about the 24th of September benchmark, but before that. The member states still have not seen enough satisfactory steps towards meaningful de-escalation. That's why the measures are still in place. When it comes to the position of the European Union regarding the dialogue, I mean, there's no way around it. There needs to be a return to the dialogue. The EU is a facilitator of the dialogue. The EU is the honest broker, helping the parties to find a consensus. We repeated that many times. There's nothing new to say about it. The EU path of both Serbia and Kosovo goes inevitably through EU-facilitated dialogue. There are no bypasses around this. Both parties need to understand that. So the dialogue needs to resume, and they need to engage in a meaningful way by trying to achieve the necessary compromise in order to normalize their relations. When it comes to the investigation, again, I can repeat what we said many times already. We expect the full result of the complete investigation. So once the investigation is concluded and the results are there also for the European Union to see, to have a very clear picture about what happened, who was behind it, then the EU will decide next steps.
Fatloum, you have a follow-up.
Just a short follow-up. Kosovo side Prime Minister President had made it clear that they will not meet President Vučić until Serbia is under sanctions, under measures. What's the EU position? You said that, but also the second part of my first question. Is there a prepared package of measures against Serbia? Can you confirm if there's only a package? We're not asking about annunciation. Thank you.
But Fatloum, in our work, it's about the decisions and results, not about procedures. The procedures are internal and confidential usually, so I will not go into details when describing what is being done, what is being prepared or not. The European Union was very clear. Unless there is the escalation, or if there is more escalation, we stand ready to introduce certain measures in response to these. Some of the measures have been introduced already. We are also ready, when the member states agree, to consider measures not only against Kosovo, but also against Serbia. That said, at the same time, I need to underline that these measures are flexible. They can be also lifted. They can be reduced the same way as they can be introduced when the member states see that there is a necessity for it. At this stage, we really need to see, first, steps towards meaningful de-escalation, return to the dialogue, and when it comes to the events from 24th of September, full final investigation. And when it comes to so-called conditions about returning to the dialogue, the EU and international partners were very clear. The dialogue needs to resume. Both parties need to go back to the dialogue, full stop.
Thank you. I will take one last question, I believe, also on this issue from Dragan before we close midday. Dragan, go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, it's for Peter. Peter, you said yesterday that the European Union expects full and unconditional Belgrade cooperation in shedding light in what happened in Banjska on 24th of September. But Belgrade must cooperate, must be in touch with what institutions? EULEX, KFOR, Kosovo Police, or another else institution to have that full investigation and shed light on Banjska events.
Thank you, Dragan. We addressed this issue also yesterday, so I will just shortly recap. We expect full and unconditional cooperation from Serbia. How this is done, it's up to Serbia. There are ways. If there is a will, there is a way. There are many possible ways. It's not for us to send messages via public domain. Our Serbian partners know very well what they are supposed to do and what they are expected to be doing.
Thank you very much for your participation, and see you tomorrow for the college readout.